fiction. Phony fiction.
Are search warrants a thing of the past? Small-scale hoaxes are just as dangerous to our rights as larger ones. One of the few things we still have protecting our rights is a need for police to obtain a search warrant. Now, what are search warrants? Without a warrant, police can only come into your premises or search your vehicle if you allow them to, or if they believe a serious offence will be or has been committed, or the drugs are on the premises, or in the car, if a fight is in progress or an intervention order has been breached. Police hate obtaining search warrants. It takes time and effort, which cuts into valuable donut eating time. So the agenda here is the abolishment of search warrants. Let's have a look at a small hoax designed to achieve such an agenda. Now, a bit of background. Australia has taken in many Sudanese refugees. Many have settled in Melbourne, Victoria. Now, African youth have been demonised in Victoria for many years, with headlines such as these: Danger Zone, Gangs, State of Fear. Many will remember the Apex Gang and home invasions. More headlines: Apex out of control, crime wave as cops brace for 30 Apex crims to be released. Home invasions, out of control, call for action of violent thugs. Apex killed my son, Melbourne crime wave, home invasions on the rise in Melbourne suburbs. As a result of being demonised, African youth cannot party at normal places like pubs and clubs, so they rent out short-term rental properties to have their parties. I mean, who can blame them? Those pushing an agenda have seen this as an opportunity. Lately, the emphasis has been on wild, out-of-control parties featuring African youth at short-stay rental properties. Headlines such as these: residents terrified after destructive Melbourne party, Melbourne Airbnb, trashed by gang, 60 youths host wild party in Docklands similar to Werribee incident. What's also been emphasised is a lack of police powers to do anything. In this case, a woman watched helplessly with police as youths trashed her house, and police said they could do nothing to help.
Oh, I'm out of snow. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. No drinks for me, thanks. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
So this brings us on to the Shands Lane hoax. Now here's the cast for this production. Senior Sergeant Adam Tanner. Witness, neighbour Sam. Ditto, Alex Simpson. Ditto, Gordon White. Ditto, Meg Morehouse. The co-star, Little Puma Girl. And the star of the show, Dan Ding. There are, of course, some other extras as well. Now, the staging area. 17 Shands Lane, North Melbourne, Victoria. Nice little place, as you can see here, and it's situated down a tiny little lane. There it is there, number 17. There's only one way into this place and one way out. There are 3 little enclaves here, here and here, but they're all dead ends. So this makes for a perfect staging area where everything can be controlled. One way in, one way out. Now here's a look, a street view of it. This little house here, just the area around here, it acts as an interview area later, so keep note of the fence, the grey fence. I'll point it out later. Now, as we're swinging around, just take note of the house on the left there. That's going to be pointed out later too as a reference point. Nice little street, this one, Canning Street. Plenty of old Victorian style houses. Now, we'll go for a little walk down the lane here and have a look at number 17. Whoops, overshot it a little. We'll just swing around here. There we go, there's the place there. You'll notice on the news reports and photos and that the fence here has been changed. There's been a wooden one built. Now we'll swing around and just have a look down this little enclave here. This is all part of the staging area, as you'll see the star of the show, Dan Ding, have a walk along here during one of the news reports. We'll just see how far we can go down here, and it's only going to let us go here this far, so we'll swing around and get the flock out of here. Whoop! Now, setting the scene. On the 22nd of April, a week before this production, a loud party was held at this property. Neighbours complained, but nothing was done. Then the following week, the evil bastards seized their opportunity. So it's the 29th of April. This event involves African youth, wild party, short-term rental property, violence and damage to 4 police cars. 7 and 9 were employed to participate in this. They were both given pre-recorded footage to which they inserted their own reporters. Now, the prostitutes in this production are Madeline Slattery from Channel 9 and Paul Dowsley from Channel 7. Here's the pre-recorded footage given to both Channel 7 and 9. I haven't bothered syncing it, but as you can see, it's exactly the same vision, taken from exactly the same camera, from a vantage point of next door. Here's one of the photos, and there's the other one with the holes in the wall at the bottom of the stairs. There's the upturned cabinet. Now you'll notice these photos are copyrighted to Victoria Police. Here we go, copyrighted to Victoria Police. And here's how Channels 7 and 9 reported on this stage event. First, Channel 7, and take note of the language used. It's very interesting.
4 police cars have been trashed by thugs who jumped on their roofs during a violent party at a North Melbourne rental property. Officers were forced to seek refuge in a house while the out-of-control mob pelted them with firewood.
Stomped and smashed, 4 police cars sit out of action after a North Melbourne house party spiralled out of control. Police arrived at the short stay rental property around 2:30 this morning to find around 50 people inside.
Cops knocked on the door, the party, you were yelling back at them, you can't come in, get a warrant.
Guests were ordered to leave.
The cops were pushing some of them, pushed one of them, a young boy, and you could see he sort of just walked straight out, grabbed some wood, block of wood, hit a cop. They all took shelter inside the house, the police.
That's when some attacked police vehicles.
There was a chap jumping around on the police vans and kicking the wing mirrors off the police cars.
Backup arrived.
Police in riot gear.
But the youths had fled. This morning, as residents cleaned up the mess, several groups left the house, one under a doona. Police stopped some and collected their details, but none would reveal who booked the house or why the gathering turned violent. Do you know who trashed the police cars?
Oh, no.
What happened with the party?
I don't know, why am I being harassed?
Video inside last night shows young men before the party started.
I put earplugs in, but I could still hear it through the earplugs.
A witness told 7 News the youths were filming themselves as they jumped on the police vehicles. They've all been dusted for fingerprints, and among the clues left behind, distinctive footprints on a bonnet, boot and side window. There was damage inside the house too, with holes in walls and furniture upturned. Plus, a TV and microwave were stolen. The property is advertised online by local company Roomerang for $460 a night. Management told 7 News they will no longer allow one-night stays.
I think they need to party in normal places where we've all partied.
No arrests have been made.
It's outrageous, it's criminal behaviour, and it's not something that we tolerate.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
And here's Channel 9's version of events.
A group of out-of-control youths have smashed and stomped on 4 police cars as officers tried to break up a party in North Melbourne. The violent revellers also trashed a townhouse which was being leased as a holiday rental. Madeline Slattery reports.
After running amok all through the night, the last of the party guests leave the scene.
Is there any reason you're covering your face?
These were just a handful of the 50 or so youths who stayed in a holiday rental in North Melbourne.
Oh my God,
but the one-night stay turned violent, and these police vehicles soon became the target.
My understanding is he was jumping up on the bonnet and kicking the windscreen.
Lights were broken and side mirrors were kicked off.
It's outrageous, it's criminal behaviour, and it's not something that we tolerate.
As police took details from girls today, they inspected the damage, plaster walls punched in.
A television and also a microwave have been stolen.
Police were initially called to the Shands townhouse following a noise complaint.
I put earplugs in, but I could still hear it through the earplugs.
As the officers were evicting the youths, the vehicles were destroyed. Meanwhile, police retreated into a yard to dodge wood being thrown at them.
Grabbed our bin, and him and some others, I guess, and they were throwing it over the fence. Block of wood hit a cop.
Neighbours say it's the second time in 2 weeks the property has been leased to violent youths.
It's a resident's nightmare to have short-term property starting up a business in your street.
It's listed on several websites like Airbnb, but with the owner living overseas, it's managed by a local letting company.
It's managed by this Roomerang company. I don't think they do any sort of vetting.
Roomerang's director responded to residents' concerns, telling them to calm down. When you see the damage to these police vehicles, it becomes obvious just how aggressive these scenes were. There are footprints not only on the front bonnet, but also on side windows. These vehicles were left in such a state, they all had to be towed away.
Any damage to police property costs the taxpayers money. Put it bluntly, it makes me angry, and I think it makes a lot of people angry.
Now let's watch some footage of Sam. Most of this was cut and wasn't shown by either.
We rocked up in an Uber and there were about 6 cop cars, I think, that had come past us, and without their sirens on, including the public order guys, and then a van full of them in like vests and stuff.
So let's do the math. Sam said 6 police cars, including the public response guys, were there from the start, then a van full of them in vests. So that would be 5 regular police cars with 2 cops in each, that's 10. 1 public response 4-wheel drive, that's another 4 cops in riot gear. And a van full of them. So that's at least another 6 cops in riot gear. Now, I would total that to at least 20 cops, with at least 10 of them in riot gear right from the start. Remember, this was for a noise complaint. There was no violence, the party was just loud.
And then they all walked down here. We essentially just followed them, walked into our place. Could hear that next door there was a party, but nothing more than that. They were loud. Cops knocked on the door. The party, you were yelling back at them, "You can't come in. Get a warrant." I don't know what the legality of that is, but eventually the cops waited for about 15 minutes, and then eventually they just opened the gate themselves, walked in, knocked on the door, and yelled at everyone to leave. What I saw, most of them did just start leaving, sort of in single file. Then the cops were pushing some of them, pushed one of them, a young boy, and you could see he sort of just walked straight out, grabbed some wood that's in the lane, it's our wood, and grabbed our bin, and him and some others, I guess, and they were throwing it over the fence. Block of wood hit a cop. They all took shelter inside the house, the police, and then the kids must have all walked down here, and after that I don't know what happened.
Okay, well, let's first establish where the cops parked their cars. It would have been out here, out on Canning Street. He's one of the residents who apparently cleaned up the evidence the next morning. And if you look in the background there's that house behind that white car that I made mention earlier. Here's a picture looking back from Shands Lane towards that house. There it is there. And yeah, so that old fella, the resident, would have been picking up the evidence around here. So the cops definitely parked out there. Only one way out here, remember. 3 little enclaves, but all of them dead ends. Perfect little staging area. So where are all the cops? Now, this pic here shows the cops. I believe this was after the wood was apparently thrown. I've counted 8 of them. So yeah, there's at least 12 elsewhere. Now, this cop here is holding a capsicum spray, so that's why I'm assuming this was after the wood was thrown. So where are the other 12 cops hiding? You know, do you think they would have positioned a few here to look after the cars and control the revellers, or a couple here maybe? No, they all went to the house and hid.
Oh, I'm out of snow. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. No drinks for me, thanks. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
And speaking about the wood, have a look at these shots, right? There's the wood there, there's a bit under the chair there, there's a cop filming a bit in the doorway, and another 3 pieces inside. As we said, this was after the wood was thrown apparently, because that cop's there with the capsicum spray. Now there's the wood. Where's the wood in this piece? They were obviously placed there to make it more dramatic.
Oh, I'm out of snow. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. No drinks for me, thanks. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
Okay, now let's listen to Senior Sergeant Adam Tanner, who held a 13-minute press conference over this bullshit.
This morning. So I'm here to speak to you today about an incident that occurred last night. So police appealing for witnesses after 4 police vehicles were damaged in North Melbourne. So police received multiple reports in relation to a noisy party in the vicinity of Shands Lane at 2 a.m. this morning. As a result of that, police attended the scene where we located about 40 to 50 youths at a property in that street.
So police receive a noise complaint at 2 a.m. How many police do they send to investigate? Normally it'd be one car with 2 cops. Sometimes it might be 2 cars with 4 cops. Obviously, this trader is not going to say how many cops were sent to this charade. We know it was at least 20, with at least 10 in riot gear, right from the start.
People were spoken to, and that group dispersed from the address. Whilst police were at the address dealing with the people at the address, the vehicles which were parked a distance away from that location, the members were dealing with the youths, and items were thrown over a fence at the address. Members went into the address, and then subsequently, a minute or two later...
So the police cowered and hid in the house because items were thrown over a fence.
Subsequently, a minute or two later, exited the address to find the police vehicles significantly damaged.
Are you seriously trying to tell me that cops dressed like this had to cower and hide in a house because items were thrown over a fence?
Oh, I'm old as snow. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. No drinks for me, thanks. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
No police members were injured in the incident. So at this point, we're investigating the damage to the property in Shands Lane and also the damage to the 4 police vehicles that occurred at that location.
So the cowards hid in the house, but only for a minute or two, and no police members were injured. Thank God for that, hey?
We're appealing for anyone who may have seen anything, have CCTV footage, whether that be from fixed cameras or from mobile phones, to please come forward and provide that to police to assist us with our investigations. They're currently ongoing in relation to the circumstances surrounding both the damage to the property and also the damage to the police vehicles.
Has anyone been arrested yet?
No, no one's been taken into custody in relation to the incident at this point.
What was the response from the teenagers when you first spoke to them in the house?
So those at the address were cooperative with police. There were no issues in them leaving the address at that time.
And then, sorry, just to clarify, you were speaking to those people inside the address, and was it a different address from which the bottles were thrown?
So whilst police were at the address where the party was taking place, there were a number of items. There was some firewood in the area that was thrown over a fence. It was that point that members have moved into their house to protect themselves, and then about a minute later or 2 minutes later, they've exited the address and then into the laneway, and the vehicles which were parked not in the laneway but around the corner, it was then members discovered that those vehicles had been damaged.
Oh, I'm old as snow. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. No drinks for me, thanks. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
So it was the fence of the property?
Correct.
That's
so right.
Presumably the same group of people?
That threw the items? Yeah, well, that's certainly... I get.
A separate address?
No, there's certainly a large number of people around there, so whether those people were connected to the address, connected to any party that may be occurring that address, or also, for instance, whether there are any gate crashes or things like that at that party.
Were there concerns by residents who phoned police mainly around noise? Were there any other...
Yeah, so the information I had initially was obviously the noise complaints. That is why we attended the address.
So, there was no violence until after police attended. I wonder if Senior Sergeant Tanner will tell us how many police actually attended.
Did the firewood or the other object hit any members?
No. So, no police member was injured and no items came in contact with police members.
No. Hang on a sec. According to witness Sam, that answer should be yes. I'm a bit confused as I thought they were pelted with firewood.
Officers were forced to seek refuge in a house while the out-of-control mob pelted them with firewood. Block
of wood hit a cop. Block of wood hit a cop.
Did the firewood or the other object hit any members?
No.
Did the firewood or the other object hit any members?
No. So no police member was injured and no items came in contact with police members.
So whether there were no members near the vehicles when this happened? No members witnessed this happening?
That's correct.
Oh, I'm old as snow. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. No drinks for me, thanks. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
So whether there were no members near the vehicles when when this happened? No members witnessed this happen?
That's correct.
So how many members are we talking about?
Here we go.
So how many members are we talking about?
So I won't go into specifics of how many, the operational details of our response. But there, as you've seen from the vehicles damaged, there were 4 police vehicles damaged.
How many, you might be not willing to say this, but there were more vehicles there, police vehicles there, than weren't damaged? Or was every police vehicle there?
No, I think there were other vehicles that were there that weren't damaged, but obviously a significant proportion of the vehicles that were there were damaged.
What happens then when police come outside and see their vehicles left like this? What did they do then?
Well, look, let's be honest. It's outrageous. It's criminal behaviour, and it's not something that we tolerate. So, as soon as we became aware of that damage, it was about identifying who may have committed that damage.
No members saw any person up on the cars.
Correct.
So what did they do at that point?
Okay, so at that point, obviously, there's a patrols initiated to ensure that we attempt to locate those involved. The challenge for us is that, and this is why I'm appealing for witnesses today, that we need people that may have seen that damage occur to assist us in apprehending those offenders.
There's a few clues left behind from what I could see out there, like footprints. How critical is that, for instance?
Certainly the vehicles are being processed by our crime scene services, and the evidence gathered in regards to that is particularly important in relation to identifying those that were responsible and linking them to the offending.
How about those footprints?
Certainly I won't go into specifics in relation to what forensic evidence was gathered, but there's certain...
Will you just look at that duping delight? Laugh it up, Tanner.
In relation to what forensic evidence was gathered, but there's certain evidence there that will be particularly important in relation to the investigation.
Now, just on this footprints bullshit, if you were the person who jumped on the police cars, what would you do with your shoes after you saw the footprints on the bonnet of the police cars on the news? I know what I'd be bloody doing, I tell you.
Was there a case last night of people saying, no, it wasn't me, and pointing the finger at other people? Or?
The challenge is when you're responding to those incidents, identifying who's responsible. So we spoke to a whole range of people last night. We're speaking to a whole range of people this morning and trying to identify witnesses who might be able to assist. So that's the real point of me being here, to identify any further witnesses, particularly CCTV, which may be in the area, which may assist us, not necessarily in Shands Lane, maybe in Dryburgh Street, maybe in Canning Street, anywhere around that area that may be able to assist us in identifying offenders that were responsible for the criminal damage.
It's a short-term rental. Have you spoken to the people who rented the place?
So certainly in relation to the property itself and the online platform that was used to rent it, there'll be further investigations in relation to the process of that booking, and any information that can be gathered from that side will further the investigation in relation.
Have you spoken to the people who rented it?
Okay, so the investigators, I'm here to speak about the investigators certainly have a whole range of things to do today. One of those things is speaking to the online platform that was used.
How about the
So the police have not spoken to the owner of the house, nor to the company that manages the property yet. How do they know items have been stolen?
Today, one of those things is speaking to the online platform that was used.
How about the
Phony fake show. Phony fake show.
So, as I've said, once police attended the address, those at the address left willingly and quite cooperatively. Police members exited to find those police vehicles damaged. It was about, I guess, identifying who was responsible. Clearly, those responsible had dispersed pretty quickly after that had occurred.
Say that again.
Clearly, those responsible had dispersed pretty quickly after that had occurred.
Really? What about this guy, Dan Ding? He was still there when the TV cameras arrived at 8:30 a.m. He hung around for hours and hours. I'd like to bet that Dan Ding will be arrested for this.
Had dispersed pretty quickly after that had occurred, and hence, I guess the main issue had dissipated and spread out around the area.
Do you reckon the ones who were responsible for the damage might have jumped the fence, or did they walk out the front door in front of the police?
Well, I guess that's part of the investigation, whether they were linked to the address or whether they were people coming to or leaving the party. That's one of the inquiries that we need to establish, and that's why we're asking for witnesses and CCTV to see if we can establish that.
When police asked them to disperse, did the house empty out completely? All partygoers left?
Yeah, so there was everyone who was there was asked to leave and left.
Oh no, just no. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. No, no drinks for me, thanks. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
When police asked them to disperse, did the house empty out completely? All partygoers left?
Yeah, so there was everyone who was there was asked to leave and left.
Including the people who rented the place?
That's correct.
So, a noise complaint was received at 2 a.m. At least 20 cops, 10 in riot gear, attended at 2:30. Approximately 2:45 they entered the house. Between then and 3 a.m. they emptied the house. Tanner just said everyone who was there was asked to leave and left. Yet when the TV cameras turned up at 8:30 we saw scenes
this morning,
like
as
this.
residents cleaned up the mess, several groups left the house. Several groups left the house. Several groups left the house.
Oh no, just no. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. No, no drinks for me, thanks. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
And was anything else thrown towards members apart from the wood?
My understanding there may have been some rubbish bins as well thrown.
Over the fence?
Over the fence.
What condition has the house been left in?
So, as I've mentioned, there is damage to the house, significant damage from the house, and there's been a number of items stolen from the house as well.
Again, if you haven't spoken to the owner or the people who rent the place, how do you know a TV and microwave were stolen?
So, I guess when we're talking about damage, there's been damage to plaster walls, so whether that's been punched or kicked, so there's significant damage to the house, and it will require significant repairs. I would estimate they won't be cheap.
That's why you're a cop and not a builder, you idiot. This is considered significant damage, really? A couple of holes? That will not be cheap to repair? God blimey. I reckon that would cost maybe $100.
And the items stolen, do you know what they are so we can ask people to keep a lookout for them?
Certainly there's been, at this stage, it's been identified that a television and also a microwave have been stolen. I don't have any specifics in relation to the details of those.
Yeah, bullshit. How do you know that a TV and microwave was stolen? Did someone give you an inventory list for the house?
Certainly there's been, at this stage, it's been identified that a television and also a microwave have been stolen. I don't have any specifics in relation to the details of those.
Oh no, just no. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. No, no drinks for me, thanks. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
With the first complaints that came to police, was it just noise or was there suggestions damage might have been?
No, so it just related to the noise, but as you can imagine, if they're coming from nearby residents.
Phony fake show. Phony fake show.
Do you have any footage of what happened?
So I guess the investigations are ongoing, and whether it be footage from inside the address or CCTV, as I've said, in the laneway or surrounding the address, that's what we're trying to identify. My understanding is there's none from the surrounds in that laneway at this point.
You don't have anything?
Oh, a bit of an itchy nose there, Tanner.
That's, at this point, I'm not aware of any footage, so that's why I'm appealing for any witnesses to come forward in relation to identifying any footage that may be suitable for us to use.
Do you have like a ringleader suspect? Is there a prime suspect person you're looking for?
Is he talking about Dan
Not at this
Ding?
point. Obviously, there's a whole range of avenues of inquiry, as I've said, in relation to those that were at the party, those who are in the area, and also those who booked the accommodation.
A resident over the road says that out the window he saw a fellow in a red hoodie on the roof of a police vehicle, maybe in the bonnet. Is that person, obviously, are you aware of that person?
Red hoodie.
A resident over the road says that out the window he saw a fellow in a red hoodie on the roof of a police vehicle, maybe in the bonnet. Is that person, obviously, are you aware of that person?
So, obviously, the investigators will be identifying next door neighbours, residents, people who were in the area, and obtaining all that information in relation to what they saw and following that up as part of the investigation.
Can you tell us about this fellow in the red? can you tell us about this fellow in the red?
So I'm not going to go into specifics in relation to individuals of interest at this point because I just don't have them. But as I said, the investigators will be speaking with residents, next door neighbours, in relation to ensuring we have all the information of what they saw, heard, so we can further the investigation in relation to the damage of the vehicles.
You touched on it earlier, but how does it feel as a police member seeing this type of damage and recklessness to property? Yeah, look,
put it bluntly, it makes me angry, and I think it makes a lot of people angry. So it's not appropriate behaviour, it's criminal behaviour. It's something that we won't stand through.
He's probably thinking, oh, I've got through this, and that's why he said through.
Behaviour. It's something that we won't stand through for, and we'll be making sure we follow up and identifying those responsible and bringing them before the courts.
Maybe a look in the mirror will solve this one.
We're here to help the community, all members of the community. Any damage to police property costs the taxpayers money. Okay. It's frustrating. It affects our ability to do our job effectively. Now, we have other vehicles that we brought into service last night. There was no detriment to police service, but it's frustrating.
It's not the first time. Does Victoria Police have concerns with how these booking platforms might be handled?
It's certainly a challenge. If people are going to operate business models, I guess we need to really look at what options we have available in relation to ensuring that those people that do this put in place, I guess, options to protect their property, okay? Because there's an owner of a property that now has significant damage to his property. So the whole aspect of that is a challenge, but we will be working together with them to ensure that we look at what options are available to everyone.
And there it is. Would you like the abolishment of search warrants to help you keep us safe?
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Hannah.
No worries, have a lovely day.
You too.
See you next time.
Cheers.
Now, just on Dan Ding, the star of the show. He's obviously the prime suspect. Now, if all the damage happened at around 3 a.m. and he was responsible, what was he still doing hanging in and around Shands Lane when the TV cameras arrived there at 8:30 a.m? You know, we see him a couple of times walking down the lane and then walking out on Canning Street. There he is. What's he still doing there? There he is, Dan Ding. I now want to double my bet that Dan Ding will soon play the arrested youth role in this production. Now, the following week there was yet another wild party featuring African youth in Footscray. What was pushed this time was the lack of police powers to do anything about it.
The owner of a rental property trashed by more than 50 African youths was forced to watch the teenagers run riot after police told her it was too dangerous to enter her own home.
Okay, now let's fast forward 3 weeks to part 2 of the Shands Lane hoax, the arrest. Again, both 7 and 9 were given pre-recorded footage of the arrest and a couple of Dan Ding pics. Here they are, there's the pics of Dan Ding. 2 photos. And here's the footage that was given to him. As you can see, it hasn't been synchronised. But yeah, it's exactly the same footage, recorded by a, let's say, police cameraman. But yeah, same footage, same camera, given to both channels, who then inserted their own reporters again. And here is how both of them reported this part.
Detectives have swooped on a group of African teenagers wanted for questioning over the trashing of police cars at an out-of-control party. 4 people were arrested during the early morning raids across Melbourne.
Police were armed with a powerful piece of paper when they knocked on the front door at dawn. Inside, 18-year-old Deng Ding was arrested and taken away for questioning over a wild party at a North Melbourne short-stay rental house, which spiralled into violence after police evicted 50 guests. Do you know who trashed the police cars?
Oh, no.
What happened with the party?
I don't know. Why am I being harassed?
A shove from an officer upset some in the group, and as 4 police vehicles were unattended in a nearby street, youths jumped onto them to smash their windscreens. It's taken detectives almost 3 weeks to gather evidence about who was responsible. They seized a computer and mobile phones.
Sorry, I just had to stop it here. What you'll see next is how a father acts after his 18-year-old son has been arrested by police. He's on the phone having a laugh when he suddenly notices a TV camera on him. All of a sudden, he goes from laughing to serious.
Deng Ding's father told 7 News police woke his family and searched their home, but
let's see that again.
Deng Ding's father told 7 News police woke his family and searched their home, but insisted he didn't know if his son had been at the party or was responsible for the damage to the police vehicles and inside the house.
If you're going to be having a party, ensure there are adults present, ensure that only invited guests arrive.
There were simultaneous raids at 6 properties across Melbourne. Teenagers were arrested at 4, here in Tarneit, plus Collingwood, Point Cook and Werribee. All will be charged with affray and criminal damage.
4 teens have been arrested in early morning raids. As Lana Murphy reports, they're accused of destroying police cars and trashing a rental property in North Melbourne after a party spiralled out of control.
At the crack of dawn, an 18-year-old is led out of his family home in handcuffs, suspected of stomping and smashing 4 police cars after a wild party was shut down at a North Melbourne rental property last month. Police were pelted with wooden stumps as they broke up a gathering of more than 50 people after it turned violent. Holes punched in the walls and televisions and microwaves stolen, causing tens of thousands of dollars damage as they left.
My understanding is he was jumping up on the bonnet and kicking the windscreen.
Deng Ding is one of 4 young men arrested after a 19-day investigation, armed police raiding his Tarneit home and others in Collingwood, Point Cook and Werribee.
They're linked in many ways. You know, offending is just one way that youth are linked.
2 17-year-olds and a 16-year-old were also arrested. All 4 males have been released, but it's expected they'll be charged on summons once police examine the laptops and phones seized from the homes during the arrests.
We're working hard to ensure that we are able to respond appropriately to these parties when they occur and disrupt people and in the community.
Okay, and this is what it has all led to. This was a newspaper report shortly after the Footscray event. Acting Commander Clayton said police had reassessed the way officers respond to wild parties at rental properties. We've provided some advice to our members, we've consulted internally and sought some additional legal advice around police powers, and we have provided enhanced response to our members and provided guidance about what our powers are and what we can do, he said. Now here's the clincher. Police will now work with the government to see whether any legislative changes are needed to assist them in controlling disruptive parties. Goodbye, search warrants. You're a thing of the past.
Oh, I'm out of snow. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. No drinks for me, thanks. Bullshit.